Welcome back, every peoples. Welcome back to the D&D 3.5 book club, the book club where we talk about all things D&D and D&D 3.5 and 3.5 adjacent. It has been a hot minute. Um, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of backstory, me and Charles and Nason, who are my co-hosts today, um,
Hello.
how you guys doing?
Hello, hello. Doing well, thank you.
Very good. Very good.
So we sat down, I want to say a good, I wanted to say this past October, but then I was like, no, it was the October before that. So 2 Octobers ago, like over a year ago at this point, to do this Ravenloft episode, and we talked about it, and we had a really good conversation. And we were trying to just kind of put together some points to talk about, which we really should have just recorded because that was a really good episode. It would have been a really good episode. And then it just took us so long to get back around to doing this. But now that we are here, I am super excited to dive into expedition to Castle Ravenloft. But before I do that, I did want to ask you guys, like, what have you been up to in gaming? Kind of in the past year, but in terms of role-playing games, board games, video games, like what have you guys been doing?
I'm a player currently in a 3.5 game. Um, I'm a playing paladin in a party completely filled with evil and chaotic party members. Um, so that's going to be fun. And 3.5 paladins lawful good. So that's going to be interesting. In fact, the Nason's in that game as well, and every once in a while, I just hover my mouse over my macro for the smite evil. I'm thinking like, oh,
I'm not
it'd be that easy.
evil.
Yes, yes,
I'm
you
gonna
are.
I'm gonna stick to that.
I
I'm
have
gonna
to
stick
detect
to it.
evil over
I'm gonna
it.
stick to it.
I have a
You're
lead sheet.
yeah, it's a lead sheet. 100%. The Superman properties. I over the last year have also been in that same campaign. We were also in another 3.5 campaign that was kind of a aftertell of one of our sessions with our characters that kind of like extended into a further future that then traveled into Starfinder. Additionally to that, I've been playing just various board games that we can get our hands on through Steam or anything else, and making random characters inside Baldur's Gate and Elden Rings to satisfy my D&D thirst. Mostly what I've been doing.
That is awesome. I still had yet to play Baldur's Gate 3. I want to play it. I know I'm gonna like it.
They're adding
Um,
12 subclasses in a couple of months, so
ooh,
you
that's
might as
cool.
well wait it out. They're just like, we're not going to add a DLC, but we're going to keep updating the game until
Well,
people are happy.
so Baldur's Gate was actually the original Baldur's Gate back in like, I don't know what, 98, 99. That's kind of what got me into actually being able to play D&D. Because I had gotten some of the like some second edition material, not like the core books or anything, and I was interested in D&D, but I didn't really like know what it was or how to play it. So that was a really kind of formative game for me in terms of like just getting an understanding of what D&D is and like how it works and like having a video game teach that, you know, to you so that then you can go out and teach other people.
I was about to say, I really owe a lot to Baldur's Gate because um, you were like my first hands-on experience with like D&D 3.5 mostly, but like actual tabletop playing. Before that, I played a little bit of Exalted and a little bit of Star Wars: The Fantasy Flight, but
Oh, the
nothing
uh
really.
the the D20 Star Wars?
No, the one that has no, the one that has the no, maybe it was the D20. It was the
Yeah,
D20.
the uh
It
the
was, yeah.
the yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. I played that with some people who were very big into LARPing at the time, and but they were like, you should play Star Wars and try LARPing, and I was like, I'll try Star Wars, but I'm not gonna do LARPing because I'm broke. Just because I'm broke and I'm a teenager and I've got a lot going on.
I remember LARPing.
Yeah, and so like which I think they're very awesome. They're very cool people, but I didn't really get a chance to. But then whenever we actually met and then we started playing D&D, I was like, yes, this is what I wanted. Like this is it. Like this is the energy, this is the storyboards, this is everything. So good job, Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, that like really when you get a good group, and, like the stars align, it's just great. And we've been playing, we've been rolling dice together for almost 20 years at this point.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy to
I mean
say.
that's kind of a testament to the power of, hey, get a good group, keep the group.
I make fun of this like in very lightly usually, but it's I think it's funny that you and me don't DM, like we both DM, but like we both don't usually play in the same session a lot, like we're both characters.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I think it's because like on a base level we are so chaotic in two different spectrums that like it's hard to manage both of us
Oh, it would
because
be crazy. It would be
uh
crazy.
and not to get too far off topic, but that game that Steven DM'd where it was like, you were I forgot his name. You were the Sheeran. I want to say Patience, but it's not Patience.
Oh
What
yeah,
was his name?
choice.
Choice.
Yeah,
Choice.
individual
Oh my,
choice.
that whole entire thing was just it was so much. It was just so I can only imagine what he was going through on his side. We were like it was so good, but at the same time, I get it. I get it 100%. Like I get it. Like and I love every bit of it, and I wouldn't change it for a thing.
Yeah, that was a really
Uh
good game. So anyone out there who hasn't run through the Starfinder module, Attack of a Swarm, run
yeah.
through that module because it is fantastic.
Yeah.
It is El Fantastico. Um, but to kind of jump into Ravenloft, um, so I didn't want to do like a review of Ravenloft, right? Because everybody kind of knows what Ravenloft is at this point. Everybody's reviewed it. Everybody's, um, had their say and said their 2 cents about it. But this is my personal favorite version of Ravenloft, the 3.5 expedition to Castle Ravenloft. And this module is almost universally hated. Uh, Everything I find online about it, people are just not saying positive things about it, which, I get. It it diverges a lot from the original i7 Ravenloft, which really is the gold standard. In terms of modules. Ravenloft, the original one, the second edition one by Tracy and Laura Hickman, is just amazing. Um, and I used a lot of that module when I ran this the first time. I kind of used this for like the rules and encounters, and I used the original i6 Ravenloft for like the fluff and the toad and um, some of the NPCs and whatnot. So I get why people don't like this, and also this one is written by Bruce Cordell and James Wyatt, who you might notice are not Tracy and Laura Hickman. That's kind of another reason why people don't like it. And in Curse of Strahd, Tracy and Laura Hickman came back to update the game for fifth edition. So, I think that lends a lot of credibility to the fifth edition version. Whereas, this is just kind of an outlier, and a lot of people don't like it. But I do, and I wanted to kind of talk about why. Um,
So I have a question about what you just said.
yeah,
So the original one was Castle Ravenloft, and then two other authors redid Castle Ravenloft, but then the original authors came back to do Curse of Strahd.
yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Gotcha. Gotcha. I like it.
So what I kind of wanted to ask you guys first, before we really like just jump into the nuts and bolts of this thing is there anything like what's something memorable that you remember from any Ravenloft games that you've been in? Because I've run this particular um, module twice. Charles, you were a player in the first one. Nason, you were a player in the second one. The first time I ran it in Pathfinder, and the second time I ran it in Starfinder, which were two very different games, but both very, very good ones. So, like, what do you guys remember? Like, what jumps out to you, um, when you think Ravenloft?
So, I think one of the big parts is the this sounds funny. The scavenging part for the unique items, the sun sword and the other um essentials to actually spoiler alert, dispose of Strahd. When traveling through space, I imagine it's still like, the foot travel or the footwork you'd have to be doing by carriage or a horse inside the 3.5 or Pathfinder version. And so that journey of traveling to meet these people and then coming across like, well, actually, you're being tracked this whole time because he's just watches you. You're under this like divination of you're like, oh, well, I've had a very angry God who's just watching me every day. You might as well just have eyeballs flying above you. And I think that kind of adds to the enjoyment of the entire game. Of you're not on a timer, but you are, because at any moment they could just be like 50 armies of vampires and ghouls are upon you. They're like, oh, okay, like they fall upon you now. Um, and then when you finally get into his castle, you realize, oh, hey, this is where items like the Sun Sword actually exist. You're like, oh, okay, I need to go find this.
Oh
It's
yeah,
pretty good.
man. And
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you brought up the timer because I got some stuff to say about that later. Because every time that I've run this, you guys have absolutely been on a timer.
With with uh, expand on that a little bit in the 3.5 as written, it is virtually impossible to not be spied at with Strahd. Like, gone through this a few times because I was planning to adapt it and run it my own Pathfinder game based off of it. And like every now and then, I find a new way that he spawned. Oh, he's using these shades that are frightening the animals. Oh, he has these minions that can follow you out during the day and everything like that. There's a bunch of NPCs that are on the take. There are a bunch of animals that he not only can communicate with, but he could also be one of them. So it's just something Strahd is going to know what you're doing, know what you're up to, um, and it's virtually impossible. Like maybe there is a way, but it's certainly not worth the effort if there isn't just something you need to kind of accept as
I
a
think
player.
one I think one of the creative ways that I experienced it over the couple of times I've been in like Curse of Strahd, mostly in the 5e version. People would use him to spy on you as like a reflection. Like in vampires you don't have, but he would show up like in your reflection instead of like him having his own reflection. He'd be showing up in the image. So you'd be like eating soup and he'd be in the reflection of your food. It was very unique the way I experienced his surveillance.
That's an interesting touch to it. Yeah, that would be quite unsettling.
Yeah, I
Which
mean, you can go ahead.
I was going to say, which is potential struggle for this game because the characters, they have class levels and everything like that. They're pretty strong and generally, well, they're usually on the heroic side with their abilities and everything like that, and it's dressed up as a horror setting, so it kind of has that uh, it has an interesting balance that some people have a hard time with.
It is. I mean, I absolutely love this book, particularly the 3.5 version, um, because I no, I don't remember when I ran it the first time. I don't remember if Strahd is also supposed to have like all of those ways to spy on you in the second edition version. I'm pretty sure he does. I'm pretty sure he uses the Vistani a lot to spy on people. A lot of the townspeople are like, are kind of down with Strahd, and they don't necessarily tell you that they are, but they'll tell him if they see stuff. Um, in addition to him just being a spellcaster himself, a very powerful spellcaster, and being able to just scry on you whenever he wants to. Um, so it's tough to keep things a secret from Strahd in this game, which becomes very difficult on the players when you start working against him, right? Because I remember in the Pathfinder game that we ran, you guys were kind of, you weren't really actively opposing Strahd for a long time. But then once you started opposing him, the challenge rating just kind of skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. We were kind of doing the bare minimum. We were kind of trying, uh, keeping on the download a bit. And when that switch was switched, we went hard for it, and it was a uh, very tough game at points. But we came out on top, and we did like all the check boxes.
And you see, that's what I love about this game and why I think people still play it. What 40 some odd years later, even 50 years later at this point, um, is because what you really need to do is you need to get the items. You need to get the items and you need to prepare and you need to be smart about it. And the way that this adventure is set up is the items are always in different places. And the places that you go to power up the items are always different. So you can get the Sun Sword like day one, like literally like in the first like it can be just sitting there in Barovia. But in order to transform it into its true version, then you have to go somewhere else and you have to do the ritual in order to do that. And so that's going to be somewhere else. And so some of those places can be outside of Castle Ravenloft, some are inside. There are NPCs are always going to be different. So like in the game that I ran, the Vistani were working for Strahd. Well, if you ran it again and you drew your tarot deck differently, they might not be working for Strahd. They might hate Strahd, and they might, want to be working with somebody else. So, it has infinite replayability, and I think that's why people are still playing it, to this day.
I agree with that because and I know that it's like, hey, here's several set parameters that you have, but adding the tarot card thing where it kind of like it adds a level of not chaos, but like random or RNG for even the DM to be like, oh, okay, well, this is how the story's going to play out differently this time. It gives you so many abilities to then play things out differently, especially if you've already experienced Castle Ravenloft or Curse of Strahd before. It kind of gives you that opportunity to be like, well, okay, well, I'm going to twist it this way then. Just like how you said.
And I also like the way that they statted those items here. They actually stat them as weapons of legacy. So the holy symbol and the sun sword, those are weapons of legacy, straight from the weapons of legacy book. So they become very powerful if you power them up in the right ways. Um, when I ran Starfinder, I couldn't do that obviously, so I had to stat up my own sun sword and holy symbol, which I did on my old blog. I'll link it. It's still up. It hasn't been updated in a long time, but I have some stats for the Holy Symbol of Ravenkind and the Sun Sword in Starfinder, and I think they worked out pretty well.
That's so good. Also, we need to get those stats. We also need those stats just in
Uh,
case.
yeah, they're on the blog. I'll link it.
Yeah, and the adventure too. There's a lot of randoms that can be. Of course, as the game master, you could just decide for somebody who's like, I don't really care for the madness angle, so I'm not going to do that one. But you can do it completely random yourself. There's a lot of different setups and motivations that you can do, which is really cool. And I also just uh, really like the introduction to the adventure as well.
Yeah, let me go back up here to the intro, uh, because so personally when I ran this in with both Pathfinder and Starfinder, I really enjoyed the intro where what the intro is here is essentially you're just fighting through Barovia to try to get to uh, the center and try to figure out what's going on because you start out You can start out in any number of different ways, but you end up, in this situation where you're just in this like zombie plague, right? And you're trying to figure out what's going on. You're trying to get to a place of safety. Um, and there are just hordes and hordes and hordes of different zombies, and they're not just like your little, one challenge rating um, zombie. They are there's some tough dude. Like, look at these guys: infected zombies, um, frenzied carcass eaters. Uh, let me see if I can find this entomber because I remember that guy. He was
I remember
oh
that guy too.
oh my goodness, Vargoyles. Oh,
Oh, my gargoyles.
I forgot about the Vargoyles.
I did
Oh man.
not.
Oh,
I did not forget about them.
those guys don't mess around. That's
They know.
instant death. Like at this level, yeah, you might have a cleric that can maybe help you out, but like if you don't, instant death, man. Instant death.
Gargoyles were one of the like first creatures that I learned in 3.5 were, hey, this is like run on site if you can't kill. Like, and that was perfect. It
Yeah,
was
so
perfect to know.
a little tie in there. James. So for listeners, there's this guy James who used to run some games back when we first started, 20 some odd years ago. And the very first thing that he threw at us were Vargoyles. We were level one. we were we had no chance. But he threw these Vargoyles at us, and he was a player in this game. Um, and when you're talking about you know ticking time bombs, literally in this case, um, so Strahd had kind of achieved a lot of what he wanted to do in this game. Um, so when these guys finally moved against him, they moved against him hard. Like they went all in. And James did this he sacrificed his character. It was this whole big huge thing. He planned it out for like weeks ahead in advance. Um, and he essentially blew up Strahd. And the temple, or not the temple, but the like the church that he was in, where he
Chapel.
was in the process of getting married. And that essentially gave the rest of the team 24 hours to look through the castle, find what they needed to find, destroy everything they needed to destroy, find Strahd and kill him before 24 hours had elapsed. And like after 24 hours, he would come back and he'd kill everybody.
That's wild, but I love that.
It was a wild game.
I love the concept of being put on a doomsday clock, especially when like someone made a heroic sacrifice, because it's like not only did it change the course of obviously that character and that player who's playing it, but it changes it for everyone. Everyone's immediately like, oh, now I have a sense of urgency. I want to grieve and have that grieve moment, but at the same time, there's no time for that. There's no time for it right now. I love that.
No time for resting either.
I oh, true. 24 hours. You're not gonna have that
Nope.
much of a long rest.
Yeah,
Who could sleep? Who could sleep?
you couldn't. There was no way. But it was so great because in this book, it literally describes like Strahd's tactics and whatnot, and that's one of the things that I like about this book as a DM. Look at all this. Look at all this info. Like even just on this page right here, this is just like a random little introductory encounter, and look at all this. Just look at all this info. Um, it makes it very easy, at least I thought, as a DM, to just run the game. Like you're not having to spend as much time prepping. So it literally says in this book what Strahd does, and it says that he harries the party. So what he does is he invites them to the wedding. He gloats. He says, "I have everything that I want now." It's been this little game of cat and mouse has been fun, but I'm going to kill you guys now. Um, and so he just messes with you guys. Like he'll throw monsters at you. He might attack you himself. Even if you kill him, he comes back. Like it's not a huge thing for him. But James, like blowing him up like that, and just like decimating uh Strahd and this whole big place of power, it gave the rest of the party that chance to not be like constantly ambushed by Strahd. Because if he hadn't done that, you would have just been, continuously ambushed by him until either you finished him or he finished you. So that was a cool thing.
Yeah, I definitely will never forget how our final fight with Strahd went down. But we'll come back to that later. I think
That was
we
brilliant. It's again, like I was saying earlier, it's all about getting the items, powering them up, and like if you do everything, if you hit all the plot points, if you cut off all of Strahd's sources of power, if you destroy the Sunstone, if you get the Sun Sword, if you get the Holy Symbol and power them up, then Strahd's not actually that big a deal. But if you try to like just go straight at Castle Ravenloft and fight him at full strength, no, you're not.
That's
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah, you're not going to
It's
win.
impossible. And like to mention what you said earlier about like the sensor could start there, and like people are surveilling on you in Barovia, and the first leg of the adventure is very much a zombie apocalypse that you're facing as you go kind of like beat your way through it or find your way through it. That that kind of brings me to one of the best parts of the Starfinder one we experienced. It was utter chaos to fight a militia of zombies because like you're coming across these people in their cities. Some of these people are okay, but most of them are just trying to fend off these zombies. So when you show up, they're shooting at everyone, and then when you start moving your way through these zombies, we came across the situation of um, powerful zombies that are more than your average undead, right? That cast things like confusion and then turn your allies against you. Which, if anyone's played any kind of tabletop confusion and you having to attack your allies, you immediately know who your friends are and who and how they make characters. Being hit by one of your allies and realizing you're taking like 2d6 at level 3 is a life altering feeling. Um,
Yeah, confusion is one of the most OP spells, or one of the most chaotic spells, because if you're playing with kind of a min-maxed party, which in a lot of cases in Pathfinder and Starfinder you are, because they're kind of set up that way. Um, you know, if you come across a bunch of zombies, like okay, well that's tough. They're tougher than normal zombies, but now you're not just fighting the zombies. Now you're fighting this, min-maxed third level fighter, and he's got your number and he's gonna smack you.
Yeah, because once again, like I feel like even almost even regards to how you build your character, level 3, like 1 to 4, you're probably very still glass cannon, and if not, you're just frail. So when someone turns on you and they're going to hit you and it's going to be at least 11 damage, you know that you're going to take someone down. And that's kind of one of the fun parts of fighting through Barovia in that first leg of being like, oh, hey, I'm having to deal with this environmental issue which are zombies, and then having one actual threat there that's like, no, I'm going to turn you against your allies and or use like AoE threats that affect multiple people, and people are trying to move out of the way, and you're stuck by like buildings that are closed and stuff. So you're like in this like contained environment. It gave a whole different sense of urgency for having to deal with that fight, just that whole scenario.
Yeah, and I think so. When I ran it in Starfinder, you guys really were on the clock, because like there were more zombies coming in after you also. So if you didn't keep moving, you'd get overrun eventually.
Yeah, which makes complete sense because you're once again you're in a city, like zombies are turning people. Of course, there's gonna be more zombies if they all have an objective to chase after you. Yeah, it makes sense. It's just, whoo! I am telling you that first like if you're not locked in after that first part of the adventure of Castle Ravenloft, Curse of Strahd, if you're not locked in on that, being like having to fight through a whole entire city, you're probably looking at the wrong game. You probably should find something else. It's it's so good. It's so good. Like without the Sun Sword, without the amulet, like being in the equation yet, and knowing that you have these other objectives, just surviving is like this whole great experience.
I I would like to mention you mentioned party members turn on you. 3.5 Strahd has the dominate ability, and it can last for, I think it's 12 days or so. And he uses that liberally. And if one of his other vampires casts dominate on you, that also counts as him having dominate over you. So Strahd could end up very, if you have a party of like, lower will saves and you don't have protection from evil or the like on your player characters, you could end up with the situation where Strahd commands party members to kill other party members.
Which
That would
that
be amazing.
yeah, and that kind of did happen in our game. I want to go down here just a second. 'Cause I think I saw this early. Yeah, here we go. This fight right here. Charles,
Yeah.
you remember this one?
Oh yeah, I remember this fight.
Would you like to tell the story, or would you like me to do it?
All right, I'll tell the story. So, uh, we come to this church, which is where these other two adventurers went earlier and got killed or went missing. Um, and it seemed to be the source of all the what was going on with all the zombies and everything like that. We found a door from one of the sides, and we were like, okay, we'll put our sneakiest character over there. He was an investigator, which is kind of a alchemist, roguey type character, and everyone else was going to go in the front and see what happens. So we went to the front. Self, I was playing Paladin. Some zombies came out, fine, doing well. The druid was a big bear, and he wasn't doing very well. He was a very powerful, strong character, but for some reason the zombies just kept hitting him. Um, but we were doing good. I was thinking like I was the most forward, and I was like, okay, that's okay because I have very good saves. If he because there's a clerk over at the altar who's doing bad mojo stuff, and I was like, I can. I'm the one most likely to survive or get over whatever spell he would cast. And then our roguey character opened the door and started sneaking towards him, and rolled a natural one. Cleric turned around to him and used his scroll to cast a death spell on him and killed him. Um, and that was our first character death of the game. And and we fought, killed him, and yeah, he was dead. But my character, there was a lab downstairs, took a bunch of random stuff from the alchemy lab there and poured them all in his in his throat, and he was fine after that. With no problems. That was definitely the thing that made him okay again.
Yep, that was absolutely it, and he was fine, and nothing bad ever happened again.
Oh no.
No,
Yeah,
I just
no,
I just love the way that fight panned out in the order that it did. It was just like, okay, we're at the doors, you're at the sides. We're gonna burst in, you come in from the side. James botches the cleric who's he literally like so it says here, you know, Danovich's tactics. He leads off the fight by activating his Circle of Death scroll, so which is a way higher spell than he should have. Um, so he's like, I know these guys are going to come in. I'm going to point this at the first one and I'm going to cast it. James busts through the door, botches his roll. Cleric turns towards him. Circle of Death, dead.
yeah,
And then
it was yeah, it was amazing. The series of events, and yeah, he punched much higher out of his weight class with that scroll they had on him.
And then speaking of a character dying, Strahd then brought James's character back in order to spy on the party for him. So that was another way that he got to kind of have an in as to what the group was doing, because James didn't really have um, anything he could do, since he was brought back by Strahd. Now he was essentially had become an agent of Strahd, and the only way that he could get out of that was to try to destroy Strahd and destroy himself in the process. So that was cool. That was a good. There were just so many awesome parts of that game.
Yeah, the fights to get up there, like there are a lot of, yeah, weak undead mixed in together with very strong potential, very deadly undead. Um, there are undead who like burst out of houses, like where we moved up, so the party was essentially split and then attacked the rear rank. Um, it was those first few sessions was really a almost like a gauntlet or measure stick about, this is, you know this is how strong your characters are going to need for you to be able to get past uh all of this.
Yeah, so let's just count the encounters. This is just to get from point A to point B, just to like start the adventure. Okay, so you got Zombie Street Ambush, EL6. So that's one. Then you got two. Is that the same one? Or is that different? Okay, okay, that's two, three, four. Okay, and then so four. So you go through four fights, and then you get to the center, and then you kind of get a handle on what's going on, and then you go to the church. So that's four huge, deadly encounters before you even like talk to an NPC or have any kind of interaction. Like, if you're playing this in the way that the game suggests, where you guys are just like on the road somewhere and this mist overcomes you, and then suddenly you're in Ravenloft and there's like wolves chasing you, and you run to this town, and then the town's um, uh, overrun by zombies. It's just this like huge situation where the players have no idea what's going on. They don't know, where to go, what's safe, what's not safe. They just know that they can't go back out into that mist, and the only potential safety that they have is into this town. So it makes for a pretty harrowing introduction, I think.
Yeah, and even if you go with the other session they have where you're at a inn somewhere or the like, and someone comes in asking for help, and then you go off and then get into the mists and everything like that, you still have pretty little interaction with an NPC before going through this gauntlet.
There's a lot there.
There is.
And check this out. This is the map. Interesting thing about this map is that so north is to the right here. So you normally kind of think north would be to the top of the page. This one is not. North is to the right, so you have to take that into account. Um, but the thing is, once the zombie threat is dealt with, this is all open to you. You can go anywhere. Nothing's stopping you from going to any one of these places. You can roll up to Castle Ravenloft day one, knock on Strahd's door, and see how that pans out for you. But you can do it.
I wonder if how many players, not like obviously there has, but how many players have gone up and just like, no, let's just push him now, just in case. Like, oh
Oh,
no.
oh, definitely some, definitely some.
Oh no.
That would be
There,
amazing. So there's actually I don't know what page it's on in this book, but it's a great little kind of a warning and maybe a little bit of an homage to all the characters who had done that. It's this ghostly procession. So it's a parade of ghosts. Every single night, the ghosts walk through the town, and they rise up from the graveyard and they walk through the town, through the woods to Castle Ravenloft, and they represent all of the adventurers who have gone up against Strahd and died.
Oh, what?
yep.
I like that. I like it. I like it a lot.
So that's just cool. And and again, you can play this adventure in so many different ways. You can do, the long form campaign, like we did in both cases. You can do the shorter one, which just kind of takes a lot of the more kind of fluffy bits out and just kind of streamlines it. Or you can do it in the way that I'm really looking forward to either running or playing in it at some point, which is as a one shot, normally like a Halloween one shot. That's what Tracy and Laura Hickman used to do with this game. They'd run it as a one shot every single year.
So
Where
I was very much working on something like that, where there was a one shot of where you kind of like start out at the events of Castle Ravenloft. You start off at the dinner and you kind of move your way from there. I kind of like that thought being like a House on Haunted Hill kind of situation.
Oh yeah, that'd be super cool. And I would love to play in that game. So if you do that, let me know, and I'll play in that game.
You're, of course, you're going to be there. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I'll be a cleric.
Obviously, you're
Um,
going to be there, but
which oddly enough, we did not have a cleric when we ran this in Pathfinder, which is uh, generally considered a bad idea since this is the perfect game for clerics.
It would have made it a lot easier. We had a paladin, so it wasn't bad, but it would have made it a lot easier. Early on, the player eventually left, but we had a ranger that specialized against undead as well,
Yeah, that guy was
which
a
was useful.
beast. He was one of James's friends, and he'd never really played a tabletop role playing game before, so he was just kind of dipping his toe into the water to see what this is and whatnot. Um, but he was there for the first few encounters, and he just wrecked face.
Yeah, I remember he was like discussing about what to spend his money on, and I was like, hey, you have enough for a +1 Bane Undead composite Lumbo, and that thing did work.
So I mean, that's just the great. Oh man, here we go.
I remember this encounter.
Man, that's just bringing back some memories. I want to see if I can find the actual and well, anyway, there were just so many memorable encounters because there are so many encounters in this book. It's like a dungeon crawl without being a dungeon crawl. See, you look through this stuff and you're like, whoa, look at this encounter, look at that encounter. There's an encounter in this room, an encounter in this room, an encounter in this room. Look at all this. There's these are all different encounters. Every single one of these, and that's just one floor. Um, so it you would think it would feel very dungeon crawly, but I don't think it felt that way at all. And I love dungeon crawls, and I've run many a dungeon crawl. This felt more like kind of an adventure game than a dungeon crawl. Like yeah, you're fighting, but mostly you're exploring.
I was going to sympathize with that because like I love a dungeon crawl, but it very much had like a lot more parts to it than just a dungeon crawl, and that kind of like makes it have this like extra gravity to it.
Yeah, it felt like we were searching for something because we were.
Because yeah, effectively because you are searching for something. But like I think that's kind of the fun part about it is that like you get a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
And again, I think that's why people still like this. But there's something that I want to find here. It's the additional classes, the prestige classes, which we did not use because I ran it in Pathfinder and then Starfinder. But I just love these prestige classes. Yeah, here we go. Knight of the Raven. So there's the Lightbringer and the Knight of the Raven. So look at this. This is a prestige class that's only available like in this book. Um, and it's tailored to this book. Like you get Turn Undead, you get Sun Domain, you get Smite Undead. You're just like this super undead focused paladin or cleric or even another class. Let's see if we can, yeah, the Lightbringers. So then you have the Lightbringers, which I mean, look at that. Look how cool that is.
Yeah, these are amazing. I'm not gonna lie, these are great.
Yes, they're almost like archetypes in Pathfinders with the alternate rules,
Yeah.
and they the Lightbringer clerk in particular, very powerful for this particular game. If you have one, the game is going to feel very different than if you don't have one.
So I kind of think, if I were to run this again, I might just want to run it in 3.5, so that we could potentially use some of these classes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I wouldn't have to, do all the,
Conversion.
yeah, all the conversion of, which even, running it in Pathfinder wasn't that difficult because you can, there are some encounters that you don't have to convert at all, and some that you just kind of replace what's there with the Pathfinder version. And it, you're boom, you're done. Um, but Starfinder, you obviously had to build all that from scratch, um, which for me was very interesting, and I enjoyed doing it. Um, and I'll link in the show notes a link to this map gallery. Right, you can get it from Drive Through RPG, and it's the entirety of Castle Ravenloft. It's all the maps already put together in a format that works for virtual tabletops. So that was really cool. Not having to go through and do every single map myself, which I remember that took me a full day to map
Oh,
out Castle Ravenloft, when a full 8 hour day um, to map out Castle Ravenloft when I did it in Pathfinder.
Yeah, the map it's definitely something you kind of have to do yourself with the style that's laid out on, or find it somewhere else online. Um, it's not like it looks cool with the cutaways and stuff like that, but for converting it to something like Roll20, it's a bit more difficult.
mm-hmm.
Probably not as much of
Yeah.
a problem in person, I would think.
Yeah, in person you can just kind of, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do, but on Roll20, yeah, you gotta stat that stuff out because the castle is kind of a character in and of itself, right? Like you can't just kind of, half-ass the castle. Like you've really got to be specific with what's there and what's not there and what the characters see and what might be obscured from them and what clues kind of point you in which direction.
What mattress you don't have any reason to check under.
Yep. I'm gonna see if I can find that picture because that's just it's hilarious.
I saw it at some point when we were scrolling through, and because I got the 3.5 book after I played it as a player, um, and see it's there's a really good item hidden in a spot that no one has any reason to ever check unless for some reason they're, I guess, afraid that the bed is a deathbed that eats people.
It's a
that
mimic.
eats.
It's always a
Yeah, it's
mimic.
always a mimic, and they use detect magic for some reason. Think that will, and they get a peen off that. Like that's or your players are just really just doing that and tearing everything apart in every single room.
Yep, there he is.
Yep, there he is.
Yep,
Yep.
there it is, right there, right there for
Yes.
everybody to find.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Not
could,
not a fan of that.
if you wanted to be really mean to your players, you could be like, yeah, well, you cast detect magic, but you don't find anything. And then later you'd be like, yeah, well, that mattress was enchanted with an obscuring spell, so
Just
couldn't
like all
catch.
mattresses.
It was it was oh man. I was thinking like, oh, it was all in a lead lockbox, a jewelry box.
Yep, whole thing. It's in a box full of lead. Um, Protected against scrying. No way to
Yeah,
find it.
protect no way to find it.
Couldn't do it.
It's
Uh,
impossible.
but yeah, for that, I probably just have my players roll a perception check and then just go like, okay, fine, you find it, good job. Um, Instead of just having, because that's just too weird, too oddly specific for me.
It absolutely is, and you bring up a really good point there about like how do you facilitate searching in this context? Because Castle Ravenloft is huge, and once you're in there, you're kind of on a time limit. You know, you don't necessarily always have a lot of time, so you got to be quick. And like the game, so your characters need to be, clearing out rooms at a fairly decent clip, but you also want to keep the game pace moving, right? So you don't want every single room to be, I kick in the door, I fight the monsters, I search the room. What do I find? Oh, I find the okay, I kick in the door, I search the, you know, you you want to keep it interesting and you want to, keep it moving at a clip. So that's actually, I think, one of the biggest challenges in running, something like this where it's very explorative, but if you don't do it correctly, it can kind of devolve into a slog, if you don't do it right.
I
Oh,
think you're right about that because of sorry about that. Did you have some? No, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say we definitely got lost during our game a few times.
I think a big part of that is that as the closer you want the game to come to that climax of fighting Strahd itself, you have to start giving and I know it sounds like you put into a numerical fashion of being like, here's a +5, +10, +20, or take two. But like you guys start leading your players and being like, oh well, okay, well this room, like, do you want to take more time in this room to search? You can go ahead and take a +20 or whatever, or take a break to go ahead and search this room, especially in 3.5. You have so many variant options of searching that like when you search, you can go to different paths and fail still. And so when you do search, like you want to kind of give your players be like, okay, well, yeah, well, there's something that like tingles off in this direction. And so like they know when to search. Especially when things are hidden in such obscure places as under a mattress, behind a painting. I'm trying to think of other inside of like a vase or something. Once you hide something into a obscure place, you want to really give them the option of being like, well, maybe you didn't roll the thing that needed to be done, but it's in the general area that you're still in the general area of where it needs to be done.
Yeah, you want to give your players the opportunity to fail forward.
Exactly,
Even
exactly.
if
Yeah.
even if they don't get exactly what it is, still get something.
I'm a little generous, I think, when it comes to perception checks and the like, in that it's partly because I don't want to have players tell me every time that, oh, we're searching this square for traps, oh, we're searching this square for trap over and over again. I just go, yeah, I assume, you guys are doing, due diligence. Uh, when the check becomes, relevant, I'll do it. Just so that we don't have to spend time with them, poking around with a 5 foot, 10 foot pole or whatever, just to help speed the game along. Um, it also depends on the game setting too. Like if I was running like a Dungeon Classics, I wouldn't do that because one, there's no real perception roll, and it's more of what do you do as the character to interact. But for a lot of games, I just assume the players are searching around or make the roll when it's appropriate.
Yeah, that's one of the most fun parts of Dungeon Crawl Classics is it's right there in the name. You're that's what you're meant to do. You're meant to take the
Yes.
10-foot pole and tap it against everything and really work out with physics and engineering, how you're getting through all this. But that's not every game. Um,
Yeah, a game like Pathfinder D&D, they have skills, things that those characters are supposed to be good at that the player themselves might not um, be aware of. Plus, there's a flip side to you. You as a dungeon master, you might describe a room and you're picturing it one way and the players are pitching it another way and completely miss what you thought was obvious just because they didn't click with your description of the room.
100%. And I think if you're going to run Ravenloft, you've got to kind of be cognizant of all that stuff because you you want the characters to explore, but you also want to kind of nudge them in the direction of the things that are important. Because if you don't, Castle Ravenloft is huge. Um, Charles, I don't know if you remember or if you have like because I don't remember how many sessions we spent just in the castle, but it was quite a few.
Yeah, I want to say we probably spent half the game in that castle or close to it, and we did all the or a lot of the side stuff outside to weaken Strahd and the like. But it felt like we are in that castle for a very long time.
Yeah, it's
And
a big castle.
part of that was
It's huge.
because of that time crunch. You know, we could not rest. It was very much so an attrition. We had one rest basically with the 24 hours, um, and we had to push ourselves as far as we could go in that time and then move forward. And at that time, it was mostly me, one other player, and my companion that I had because of my leadership feat. Um, for the vast majority of it. Uh, though we did pick up a very buff halfling partway through, who was around for a little bit. Um,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so this picture that's on the screen right now, it depicts a very memorable encounter in our game. Um, and so Charles, again, do you want to take this one or do you want me to take it?
you take it.
All right, so I'm going to keep this short, but it was just such a memorable encounter that I felt like it needed to be brought up. So one of our friends decided, he wanted to pop into the game and play for a session. So he rolled up a Halfling Ranger, and they're going through the castle and they're looking for stuff, and they bust into this room, which is the familiar room. This is where all of the wizards and warlocks and casters and whatnot in this part of the castle keep their familiars. This is where their familiars live. This is where like all the litter boxes are and all that stuff. So they bust in, they take out some of the familiars. Um, and again, they're really moving at a clip, right? They're trying to keep things going. So they're not messing around. They're very on point. They're being very meticulous, very precise. They're kicking down doors and they're exploring everything. So the other characters go off to kind of loot this big alchemical lab room that has all kinds of goodies. And the other character sees he sees like it's like a house cat, and he goes, Oh, that must be the last familiar. Don't worry, guys, I'll take care of this one. And he steps in to just put this little house cat down, and he gets into the fight of his life because, unbeknownst to him and the rest of the party, this was not a familiar. This was a shape changed, like demon or something. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it was like the main big bad of the area that had turned itself into a house cat in order to, just suss out the situation. So everybody else is off in this other room, and we've got this like, jump to, camera A and camera B. In the one room, you've got all these, the characters, and they're like picking up potions. They're like, I wonder what that does. Oh, it looks pretty good. Oh, that's cure light wounds. Okay. And then you pan back to the other room, and this little halfling ranger is just in this fight for his life against a house cat that's just destroying him.
That's
And
hilarious.
both out of character and in character, we had no idea that that enemy was any more dangerous than the other enemies that we wiped the floor with. Um, and we were like, "Oh, are you sure?" So we were just like, and then like after like three turns, I was like, "Do you think he actually needs help over there? Because he's kind of struggling." Uh, and it was yeah, it was hilarious him going mano a mano on this cat where like because I started doing that because I'm like, he's fine. He'll take it out in a round. Um, no big deal. And he seems to really want this too. Uh, don't want to steal his thunder. And
I have a very strong belief that no situation is ever a player versus like the environment, like 1v environment. There's never a situation that exists like that. When it does exist like that, it's just so like it kind of feels like you can feel the energy moving that way. But usually it's not. Usually they need help. Everyone needs a little help. That's why we're all there.
I get by with a little help from my friends.
I get
yeah,
by with a little help from my friends.
yeah, we didn't know. Like by the third round, I wanted to help him, but I also kind of wanted to keep the joke going.
Yes, yes, exactly. I felt that energy. No, I feel that completely.
It was so great. So I mean, that's that's another really cool part of this adventure where it is gothic horror, and it's very dark, and it's very serious, and it's very intense, but it also has those moments of comedic relief in there too.
Yeah, I one of my memorable moments from that game was when my character took that necromancer's entire spell book. And when I say that, I don't mean I stole their spell book. I mean they used every single spell they had uh, to hit me with it because they survived that long somehow. And I just kept on taking it and just kept on passing saves. And even their stuff were bad. Now, I wasn't in great shape because I used a number of spells where even if you make the save, bad things happen. Um, we had to, that was when sometime after that fight is when we took the first rest because they also like fatigued me and the like from repeated use of their magic. But yeah, took down the entire um, took all their spells where everyone else was dealing with I think they were dealing with an ooze or something at the time. Um, and I was chasing them around. They were hard to spot and hard to see. And I was like chasing them down while everyone else was doing with this stuff. We split up quite a bit in these fights when it was like, oh, it's a spellcaster. You're really good at resisting that stuff. That's your job. Um, uh, except when uh, except when the druid kept on grappling the bar devil. Um, should have really stopped doing that. But
Yeah, there's a barbed devil in here, and one thing that I like about this this module is that it kind of gives the DM plausible deniability, or you can look at it like
Yes, yes.
it's in the book, man. It says it right here in the book. Whereas in the Starfinder game, I didn't have that. That was all me, and that might be why nobody died in that Or did anybody die in that? I don't remember.
I don't think. I think someone went down, but I don't think. I think like a couple of people went down, but I don't think anyone died like fully died.
Yeah,
But
I think yeah.
Starfinder has a lot of like safety nets resolved to like tap in multiple times and everything else.
It does, but I mean the games were so different in that aspect because we had so many deaths in this game. There's one I'll find it eventually, I'm sure, but here it is. Here it is. Charles, is this ringing any bells?
Oh, I remember that fight. I was the only one left standing by the end of that, and it wasn't resolved by a complete victory. Uh, yeah, that this fight was absolutely brutal for us, and yeah, my character. I think this is a fight that, that hurt us the most out of any particular fights, including the one that got characters killed. Like as far as total everyone wiping, this fight and the Bar Devil fight are both pretty high up there. But yeah, this one was hard. This one almost killed everyone. I managed to kill the hag, and then the survivors left. And I'm not entirely sure if I would have been able to beat uh, the survivors of that fight had they decided to stay and fight. It's one of the tougher encounters from my experience.
Yeah, just look at that. I mean, you've got Madame Eva, who herself is level 8, and she's got all these spells, and she's a hag, and she can rake and rend and all this stuff. Then you've got a hill giant, which I'm just looking at this thing. I don't really understand how this is a encounter level 8.
No,
Um,
exactly. I was about to
It's not.
say a hag
eh,
and a hail giant are
yeah,
crazy to put in the same encounter.
a hill giant, two advanced ogres. And here's your nice little cheat sheet for power attacking. So, if
Yeah.
you
So the game master can metagame and pick the best optimal power attack.
Look,
I
I'm
did,
not gonna lie. I'm
and
not gonna lie. In full support of DMs being as hardcore as possible.
it's like, oh,
Like,
it's not my fault, player. It's right here in the book.
like I don't think that players know how to not metagame anymore, right? Of just how many video games exist with stats. So I don't think people know how to not metagame. So I'm a full investor of DMs going all the fuck out.
The
Like
the
if I
three
die, find me a diamond and Phoenix res me.
yeah,
Like make it happen.
I'm in that same boat.
the 3.5 metagame for how much attack bonus to put into your power attack is one I really dislike as a
It's
player.
so good.
Be, because it's like assuming you have the meta knowledge of figuring out what your enemy's AC is, and then you pick the one which statistically you'll do the
Yep.
most damage with. And it's funny too because once it hits a certain level, once it hits to like you need to get a natural 20 anyway, then you want to use all of your attack bonus for the attack. But hopefully you never fight against an enemy whose AC is so incredibly high that your only chance of hitting is a natural 20. But yeah, I wouldn't do that to my players.
Yeah, I shouldn't have.
I
I,
would.
I
I would
shouldn't have.
110%.
That's hilarious,
Without a
Glenn.
doubt, I will put my players through the ringer because it is the funniest, best experience.
No, it was so like this one. I remember it was a tough fight, but James just could not hit. He just could not. He was
He,
rolling so bad. And
he,
in every round of combat, like no matter what he did, it just did not work.
James also he hyper specialized where to a grapple build, and these creatures are large, so he doesn't have as a reliable grapple as he normally does on top of everything else. And you know he also often forgot that he could cast, that he was druid and he could cast spells. Even though even though he
We
went out of
had
his way to take the feat that let you cast spells when you're in animal form.
oh no, that was Will.
Oh no, oh yeah, that was Will. That was
Yeah.
Will.
But no, that was true. We had a full casting druid in our party who, in his defense, he would heal us during downtime and stuff, which was good. Um, but yeah, he was like, I'm a druid. I shift into bear form or tiger form, and I just murder face, which he did.
Oh yeah,
Um,
oh yeah. He was by far the biggest damage dealer of the group most of the time, outside of specific scenarios. Like he, tore through enemies. Uh, extremely powerful character. But every time we had, every single time we had trouble, it was these niche situations where the grappling didn't work as well.
I'm
Um,
gonna see if I can find So while I'm looking for this, uh, Nason, I just wanted to kind of ask you if so this is kind of the section where I want to talk a little bit more about like DM advice. So having so for both of you guys, but Nason first, having run through this game as players and read through the book as a GM, like if you were going to run this, what advice do you have for DMs to who are thinking about running this?
I would say preset some NPCs, not just combative ones, but normal ones, to be ready to throw your players off course, right? It's people are aware of how Curse of Strahd works. Like we've played tabletops. It's been out for a while. Everyone's heard the story of Strahd. So the best thing you can do is try to give some players a reason to be suspective of their own knowledge, right? They roll a perception check, they succeed. Go ahead and give them the information, but give them the information that is vital to the moment at hand and not to the overarching story. Sometimes you can be like, yeah, well, Strahd exists and he's asleep, but he's not watching you. There's a very strong part where I think players know that Strahd is existing because they come to the game knowing Strahd exists, and they're like, "Oh well, I'm gonna take zombies, wraiths, swamp hags, and other forms of undead likely." And you can definitely turn one of those to being the most menacing part of the story before they come across to like, "Hey, the Sun Sword, the relic, the amulet," and they have these items that make Strahd a lot easier. Well, there can be a lot of encounters before then that you can make very complicated and almost uh, maze worthy. I don't want to say maze worthy like as in like they have to actually work through a maze, but more is that there's parts of that encounter that are a lot stronger that they are giving credit for because they don't think Strahd's actually present. But Strahd can as a vampire and a very high level spellcaster, can supplement himself into anywhere he really wants. And I think giving shrouds of Strahd as a buffer to enemies is a very good thing to incorporate into fights, like being like, oh well, you're fighting this quote unquote big bad of this area, but then Strahd is already aware of what you're doing, and so he supplements himself as like a support to big bad. And then you come across a whole new scenario of where this individual has someone else who's healing them or adding them buffs or giving something that the players have to then maybe take care of before they take care of um, the actual threat.
I'm there. Absolutely. I am all about making Strahd as big a part of this adventure as possible. Um, because he really is a villain that you can have him there the whole time. He doesn't even have to do anything. He's just like he's an intimidating presence. And in the Starfinder game, you guys met him a few times, and he,
Com-
you know, he
Completely.
he, he didn't kill you guys. I seem to remember him wanting you to work for him, which worked out until you turned on him.
And I think that's a big part of it is because like I feel like on both sides of that you want to be able to have those scenarios where Strahd is the problem still. Like regardless of how big bad this enemy or how strong this enemy is, Strahd is really what's fueling their power. But at the same time, like Strahd being able to help you is a very beneficial thing to like be able to incorporate into the storyline when you're like, well, I know Strahd can give me these things, and even having him watching me, but me doing things that he wants can still lead me down the path of finding the things that I'm needing. Um, to dispatch of him later.
Now that you say that, that reminds me of a mechanic that is present in the original I6 Ravenloft that's not present here, and that is dark powers checks. So in the original Ravenloft, there were dark power checks. Like anytime you did something evil or you did something, um, that just really was, in conjunction with like what the dark powers kind of want you to do, which is, they want you to fall. They want you to, you know, be evil and, succumb to the darkness. Um, they would reward you. And that was very much what Strahd is kind of written as, back in Isaac's Ravenloft. That's what he's trying to do. He's really trying to corrupt the players and slowly bring them over to his side. Um, and you can do that if you do it, kind of slowly and insidiously enough.
I
Kind of
agree
the
with that.
the Darth Sidious Anakin Skywalker
I agree
kind of
with
way
the
of doing
fact
it.
that like for a long part of the like both of the Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft, Strahd is really part of the environment and as a DM you should realize that he is. Like you should incorporate him as much as part of the environment as he is because that's what he's there so long and so powerful that he is omniscient to the area. And then like not until the players have like either found a way to not be scryed on or have acquired the relics they need to get rid of him uh, and already in his castle that then you realize like well he's an entity that we can also just like get rid of but the whole entire time up till that point up till like I mean once again you're like in the tombs destroying corpses and stuff like that coming upon him that you shouldn't really even consider him an enemy. You should just consider him like as lava, you know what I mean, or the ground is fire. Like any of those things, you should just incorporate him as being like as a player, you should think of him as being like angry trees or mad air because that's what he really is. He's something there making your life harder until you actually find a way to stop him, which is like the end of the game.
Yeah, there is no way to stop him until you can stop him.
Correct.
And even if you do somehow manage to stop him, he just turns into his gas form and runs away.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be back.
Yeah, so it's perfectly fine to use him to skirmish or harass your players out, when they're out and about. Uh, he also has other minions in the book that you could throw at the players instead. Quite a few options to just generally harass the players once they go up on his notice.
Now that's
My
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
my general advice would be, and this is kind of true with all modules, unless you're trying to run it as written, uh, is to adapt it for your player characters. Obviously, there's not a lot of magical items. Well, there's a lot of unique magical items in this, but uh, there's not an abundance of it. So if there is a +1 weapon of some kind, make it a +1 weapon that someone has their focus in or can use.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just generally good advice for any game. 3.5 is one of those systems where you can, depending on how you do it, you can run into a situation where you're like, all right, I find 400 gold pieces, two halfling Saigums, um, a silver throwing star, um, two sets of masterwork nunchucks, and all this other stuff. And you're like, well, nobody can use any of that.
Yeah, the the modules are also a lot of them really like they really like lawn swords and they really like bastard swords.
Yep.
So if you're playing as a player in something that you know is going to be run as written, that might be one of the specializations that you want to decide on, or stay away from specializing in any weapon unless you have to, or until you
Mhm.
actually get one that's good.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue that we're running into right now in our current game. And that's kind of why I put a blacksmith in town who could just kind of switch those around. And I just put like a gold piece price on it. Be like, oh, well, you got this long sword. You want it to be a great sword. There you go. You got this long sword. You want it to be a rapier. There you go. It's, 100 gold or whatever.
Yeah, because like I get where that can be a problem, but also I feel like that kind of also opens a door for like very weird interactions where you have like maybe your healer that's been the healer the whole time is proficient in long swords, and then they deliver the final blow to Strahd in a obscure way. I think that's kind of like there's a benefit to both of having that like ease of use and quality of life for players to be like, hey, well now this is a bastard sword or this is a laser pistol or whatever it needs to be to make the encounter work, but also putting players in that situation where they're like, well, my character either has to go this direction or they're just gonna have to take the negatives to it. Kind of builds like that anticipation and that climax of being like, when we come across this, which we don't know when we will, this is gonna have to play out this way. And I think that's kind of fun to being like, we still might lose, like, and I mean, or it's I mean, it's just a roll of the dice, but having those negatives there are kind of like it's fun to be like, hey, I'm gonna continue building my character this way and not let the story of being like and being self-aware of being like, hey, well, I'm not trained in long swords. I'm gonna get negatives to it. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should go this way. Doing that is a good thing, but like I think that's more of like a it's like a low form of metagaming when you should just be like, hey, it's still a long sword. Nobody here knows how to use long swords. Figure it out. Like, and that's kind of fun for players to have to deal with.
Well, that's why I believe the Sun Sword also counts as both a bastard sword and a short sword as
It
written,
does.
Yes.
It
uh,
does.
which is uh, very nice for a lot of different characters. Um,
Which, yeah, I think is really cool and it covers a lot of bases. So I like both of those ideas. Like, I like the idea of, it doesn't have to be a sun sword. It can be a sun mace. It can be a sun maul. It can be, you know, uh, a
Sun
sun late.
Greatsword.
Yeah, it can be a sun laser gun. Yeah, it could be a sun bow. It can be, anything. If you're doing like an Oriental Adventures, oh man, that'd be a fun idea. Oriental Adventures in Ravenloft. That'd be fun. It could be a sun katana. Um, but also there is that cool, you know, that kind of idea of, okay, well, you just found this weird kind of weapon that nobody knows how to use, but it's extremely powerful. Well, when you get your next feat, you could put it into that weapon and you could kind of, role play it like, well, we don't know what this is, but I've been training with it, for all this time so that we can, try to use it because it's so much powerful than anything or so much more powerful than anything else we have. So both of those are cool. You can go either way.
Yeah, I really like it when like I for I really like interesting items, particularly items that aren't weapons or armor, kind of for that reason, because then there's something that's it's almost like a puzzle piece that anyone can use, uh, or certain people, depending about what exactly it is. Um, but I really like utility items, uh, in general, like the symbol of Ravenloft.
Yeah, that's so that one I also had that statted up on the blog, which I'll link later. But yeah, it's great. It just, it's a great utility item. It does a lot of healing. It can heal you from a lot of the stuff that, is going to be thrown at you in this adventure. It will protect you from a lot of that stuff. So it's just a great item to have in here. So I mean, if you're playing Ravenloft, try to find it.
I mean,
Yeah,
arguably, it's strong. It's stronger than the Sun Sword. The Sun Sword just helps you in the story, but the holy symbol, it really will run the rest of the campaign for you.
Yeah, it protects you along the way. But the so there's the Sun Sword, right? And then there's this isn't something that everybody finds, but it's Sergei von Zarevich's armor. And you can find it down in the tombs because you have Strahd's tomb and you have Sergei's tomb. And if you get it, then so this is what happened in our game. Charles was playing a paladin, and he puts on Sergei's armor, and he's using the Sun Sword, which is Sergei's sword. And in this game, in the beginning, it has all of these um, recommendations for like reincarnation, right? So like Irina has been reincarnated. Maybe other characters are, their souls are kind of reincarnated. So Charles kicks down Strahd's door wearing Sergei's armor, wielding Sergei's sword in this like, and he was a paladin, so he had this like angelic aspect. I don't know if that's what it's called, but it's like
that is.
yeah, so you basically you look like an angelic form of yourself. So what Stroud sees is like the angel of his brother kicking in his door, going, "Yes, you had your shot, man. It's time to go. You killed
Yep.
me. Now I'm gonna come back and kill you."
Yeah,
And
that's messed up.
and I took him down in one blow. Um,
It was insane. I've never seen anything like that. But like, so Strahd is so extremely powerful until you get all the stuff that, until you take his power away, and then he's really just he's not very tough at all.
yeah, he's not weak. He's a spellcaster still, and he does have he did have a guardian in that room as well, and you had him use fly to get up there, but I could too at that point.
Well, see,
And
also at that time, you guys took out the Sunstone, which makes him immune to daylight. And
yep,
so, I mean, if you can cast daylight down there at that point, he's susceptible to that. And I just want to like, so just going back, we're kind of running out of time here, and we'll kind of start winding it down pretty soon. But Strahd, after you take away all of his abilities and whatnot, he's like CR 9 or 10. This encounter, the Devil's Garden, is encounter level 12. And
Exactly.
and honestly, I think this was one of the hardest fights of the game because this is a barbed devil, right? We had so one our biggest damage dealing PC did unarmed attacks. He would shapeshift into a tiger, and then he would just get all these insane attacks as a tiger. In this thing, every time you hit it, it damages you. Right? Look at this. Any creature striking a barbed devil takes 1d8 plus 9 points of piercing and slashing damage from the barbs. So he would get like, 6, 7, 8, whatever attacks per turn. So he'd be taking, what, 8d8 plus, 9
it
times.
it, it was actually worse, Cliff, because he had a grapple build. He grappled first and got hit with impale as well.
Yeah, so yeah, they had improved grapple and all this. Yeah, it was insane. This thing was just wrecking his stuff. And then
And
we'd be like, hey man, you're a druid, you can still cast spells. And he was like, no, not gonna do
also, also his thing was because Shang is he had a lot of attacks, and that's how he did a bunch of damage, was because he had all these attacks, but he didn't have any ability to go through the damage reduction of the of this devil, not very much. So he was only doing um, with every attack, he'd be doing like 2 to 7 damage depending on how he rolled, and he was just taking he was just getting destroyed from attacking.
Yeah, and just look at that. So your base attack plus 12, yeah, whatever. Grapple plus 22. You're not out grappling this thing. You're not doing it.
No,
Unless you're saying, then maybe you can't.
I've grappled large elementals, and all it did is grapple onto them and not really move them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
they're
still
doing
got to
that.
be stronger than them. You still
Yeah,
got to be stronger.
what do you call it when there's like the two strong dudes and they've got their hands on each other's shoulders and they're like trying to push each. It's like that. I don't
Yeah,
know what you
Very
this
call
much,
that,
very
but
much. Yes, I agree. I don't know what it is either, but yes, it is.
yeah, this was the hardest fight. And remember, we were doing the time crunch thing, so we didn't have everything going into it. There's only two of us and my companion from leadership for this fight, uh, and it was pretty close. Um, I was pretty banged up too by the end of it.
so you can skip this fight, but if you skip this fight, then you don't get to the Sunstone. Oh yeah, and then there were like these
Wild
little
Rice, yeah,
yeah, I forgot about those guys. But yeah, they're pretty crazy too because they can like squirm into your skin and mess with you.
yeah, and
Um,
and they use a touch attack too, so they have a decent chance of hitting you.
yeah, so I mean, there's some diabolical stuff in here. It is not it is no bueno. So again, you can skip this fight, but then you don't get to the day heart, and destroying the day heart is what destroys Strahd's ability to walk in the sunlight. So that's really how, like, one of the ways that that final fight was won is we had the Sun Sword, which can cast daylight. Um, Strahd is not immune to daylight anymore, so that's not good for him. He's already there in his lair, so if you kill him and he goes into his mist form, well, that mist form is still out in daylight, and it's going to go right back into his coffin, which is also under the effects of daylight. So he's just he's in a bad spot.
Yeah, it's very reliable. It's one of those optional tough fights that if you manage to be able to make the final fights easier, though you as a player might not know that that's what's behind this creature at the Devil's Garden.
Yeah, I don't think you guys even I mean, you knew of the
We
Sunstone, but like that
we
you
were
didn't know
looking
where it
for it.
was. Yeah, you
Yeah,
didn't
we,
know
we
where
were
it was.
looking for it. We didn't know where it was though.
So then you kill this thing, like, oh, there it is. Let's destroy it.
I just remembered that hilarious encounter with the devil in the locket.
Devil in the which one? I'm trying to remember what happened in that one.
Uh, I'm trying to remember what enemy had the locket. Uh,
I seem
maybe
to was it this one? This one has a Hellheart locket.
yes, that would have been it then.
Okay, yeah, there we go. And I forgot what that did, but it probably wasn't good.
It's uh, it had like a devil trapped inside of it, and if you broke it out, uh, it would give you a wish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you should definitely do that. It's definitely not a wish that would definitely backfire.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you can always trust devil wishes,
Taking wishes.
especially when they offer it for free.
Yeah, especially in Ravenloft too.
Yeah, especially in Ravenloft.
Never,
Especially.
never a bad decision. Never a bad
I
decision.
I remember when we got that, and there was like a silence for moments when I offered a wish, and I decided to. I think I said, "I wish you'd go to hell," and then he bowed out and left.
All right, deuces. Joke's on you. I was gonna go
No,
anyway.
no.
Yeah, so I mean, again, this module might not be to everyone's taste. You know, if your first experience was like Curse of Strahd, this is a very different beast. If your first experience was original I6 Ravenloft, you know, it's a different beast than that. But I mean, my advice is to, you know, take what you like from all three and, you know, other adventures as well, and just, you know, incorporate them in there. You can do so much with this adventure. Like I said, you know, I ran it in Starfinder, and there was a point where, in order to assault Castle Ravenloft, which was a giant spaceship, um, they hijacked a bunch of space roly-polies and space rolled them, like basically piloted them like ships, you know, into or onto the ship and used them to like eat through the hulls because you know like those didn't trigger the you know as much of the defenses.
As one should.
So there's all kinds of just crazy stuff you can do. Um, so we're kind of you know hitting that mark. You know we've been talking about this for the better part of an hour, close to 2 hours. Um, and you know again, like usually happens, we still haven't really even said you know half of what we have to say about it. Um, but so just kind of quickly before we leave off, is there anything that you guys really want to talk about before we kind of leave off this section of talking about Ravenloft?
I uh, I think for game masters for trying to run this, definitely play up the spooky atmosphere. Can be little things like maybe a driver, you know, taking a page off out of Dracula, um, having a carriage arrive to take the players to the castle, and when they arrive there, the driver that was there to pick them up is missing, and then they see the driver again, and it's Count Strahd or
Oh yeah,
Andrew, you know.
using the Bram Stoker,
Mhm. I
yeah
like
that
that.
yeah using that would be a very good movie to kind of watch if you want to set the tone.
For me, I think it's as soon as you give your players one of those two items, regardless of how you want to place the sun sword and the amulet, regardless of where they fall, as soon as you give one and the next one, every single time, make it harder for the players to get to the next one and then get to the objective. As soon as you have one of them, Strahd would be hyper aware that they have something that can kill him. I mean, as Strahd myself, I would feel like, hey, somebody has something to kill me. I'm watching them 24/7. And so DMs go ahead and make sure you put your players through the ringers as you can.
Absolutely. Um, so I mean, if nobody has anything else, I think we'll kind of leave it there. You know, this might not even be the last time that we talk about Ravenloft because again, there's just so much stuff here. Um, but you know, I hope this has been informative. I hope that it kind of helps you know somebody if they're thinking about ever running this, or if you weren't thinking about running this to consider it because it's a very good adventure, regardless of what some might say. Um, Also in the show notes, there's a very good Let's Play of this version of the game. It's about I want to say 10 years old at this point, so it's you know it's not the newest thing, but they're going through this using the 13th Age RPG, which is a very interesting RPG that I've always wanted to play, but never quite got around to it. Um, but again, I've been Cliff. Um, This week I've been joined by Nason and I've been joined by
Hello.
Charles,
Hello.
and we will see you guys later.
Bye bye.
Bye.
That was